1, which is quite clear on the process of audit. Mr. Speaker, sir, Article 228, Section 5 is very clear. It says the controller of budget shall not authorize any withdrawal of funds from the county revenue fund unless she's satisfied that that withdrawal is authorized by law. Mr. Speaker, sir, we've been entertained by a charade of just nuendos. There was nothing that you can be able to prove. I am a member, I'm a ranking member of the Senate Public Accounts Committee, and I know the process. I know what IFMIS is. I know the PFM Act, Section 103, establishes a county treasury, and he puts in the treasurer or the CMC as the head of that fund. Mr. Speaker, sir, I sat down here, and to be honest with you, when I watched those videos, something came to my mind. And I said, you know what? That conference of 1885 in Berlin conference was ill-advised. The British should have just left us with uncouth and civilized behaviors. To see a honorable member, someone who calls himself a honorable member, walking across the streets of our civilized nation, what we call civilized, and saying that certain weapons or certain tools should be used to be able to punish a woman. It's uncouth and uncivilized, and shame on them. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have gone through the 7 allegations, and none of them, Mr. Speaker, sir, has been substantiated. We are being introduced, we are being invited, Mr. Speaker, sir, to get into a conflict of manhood and womanhood. Mr. Speaker, sir, I second the sentiments of the majority leader when he said that it's about time that if these leaders of Meru cannot get their act together, we might as well call a commission of inquiry to suspend that county. It is ridiculous, Mr. Speaker, sir, and we cannot allow this Senate to be reduced to that. Mr. Speaker, sir, we should know better.
Senator Nyamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have listened very carefully to the submissions from both sides since the beginning of this matter. Mr. Speaker, the million-dollar questions for this House and my colleagues is, does this matter before us meet the threshold for impeachment? And I want to quote the guidelines given by the Supreme Court of the threshold of conduct of the counsel for the county assembly alluded as gross misconduct. Mr. Speaker, is the conduct of the county governor of Meru, is it grave? Is it disgusting? Is it heinous? And is it audacious? And all that appertains gross misconduct? The answer is no. Mr. Speaker, we must not, as a House, drown in the murky waters that is Meru politics. We must be very careful that we do not drown as a House in those murky waters. Mr. Speaker, the MCAs of Meru have failed to demonstrate that they can be independent and they can make decisions that are not influenced from outside. And we must not join them. Mr. Speaker, I want to say tonight that the matter before us should not have got here. I do not see how this matter got here, because this is pure politics that should be handled at the ground in Meru. I am very saddened, I am very disappointed, and I am not going to be part, let it be known by those I am disappointing tonight, that I cannot be, as Senator Karen Nyamu, I am not going to be part of ending a young career of the woman governor of Meru simply because she did not take a tea invitation from so-and-so. She does not get along with whoever. We are experiencing that in Nairobi.
Your time is up. Your time is up. Senator Kajwang. Order. Order, senators. Order. Order, senators. Can Senator Kajwang be heard in silence? Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, I first want to congratulate the County Assembly of Meru. They have done their constitutional mandate. And if this parliament did half of what the County Assembly of Meru has done over the last 1 year, Mr. Speaker, the cost of living would be much lower. And some people will not be living in the houses they are living up on hills. I want to congratulate the County Assembly of Meru that whatever the outcome of today, they should not go home feeling that they did the wrong thing. They undertook their constitutional mandate. Mr. Speaker, today we are damned if we do, we are damned if we don't. Let me make it clear. The misogyny that has been demonstrated in some of the videos, the chauvinism, the incitement to tribal hatred has no place in a modern Kenya. And Mr. Speaker, those are things that we should not be massaging. Those are criminal actions. Gender-based violence is such a grave criminal action that if I had an option to ask the governor a question, I would have asked whether she reported those matters to the police, because impunity breeds in silence. Mr. Speaker, from the submissions, it appears as if everybody in Meru is mad. We are in a season of madness in Meru. And that, Mr. Speaker, the only sane person in Meru today is the governor and the spouse. That is what has come out of the submissions. But, Mr. Speaker, could that be true? That all the great men and women of Meru, including the Deputy Speaker of this House, are mad, are in a season of madness, and the only lucid person can be the governor? Mr. Speaker, that presupposes and that indicates is a big, big problem that an impeachment cannot solve. Mr. Speaker, we have a patient with 2 damaged kidneys. We take out 1 kidney, the patient will not survive. You take out the governor, you leave the assembly, you still have a problem. You reinstate the kidney, which is the governor, you still have a problem. Mr. Speaker, Article 192 says that where a county government has irretrievably broken down, that county should be suspended, that county should be sent to a fresh election. And Mr. Speaker, even though we do not have the original jurisdiction on that, I want to encourage the citizens of Meru to call for a suspension of the county government, to send Governor Kawira back to the people, and to send the MCAs back to the people. We have been told a lot of stories about who is popular and who is not popular. But finally, Mr. Speaker, let us not forget that in 2010, this nation discharged Nancy Baraza of a role as a Deputy Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Kenya on very spurious allegations. But that has set a precedent that has been part of our jurisprudence. If we were to go with that threshold, then Governor Kawira Mwangaza should go home.
Senator Wakoli.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Nashukuru sana kwa nafasi hii ambayo nimepewa kujadili hoja nzito za usawa, haki na ukweli. Mheshimiwa, ukipewa nafasi kutafuta amani kati ya wendawazimu wawili, unashindwa utaanza vipi? Ama iwapo wewe ni mhubiri na unamuombea mwendawazimu, Mheshimiwa Spika, utafumba macho ukiomba ama utayakodoa macho pima ukiomba? Hiyo ndio hali tumo sasa. Tunakashifu matamshi mabaya dhidi ya wanawake, lakini pia lazima tukashifu matendo mabaya yanayotendwa na wanawake. Iwapo kuna ubadhirifu wa pesa, lazima tuseme. Iwapo kuna matusi dhidi ya wanawake na jinsia zao, lazima tukashifu. Iwapo viongozi hawawezi kaa pamoja na kujadiliana, lazima tuseme ukweli. Kwa sababu sisi katika jamii yetu tunasema maji yasipotifuliwa hayawezi tulia. Haya maji ya Meru yametifuliwa, Mheshimiwa Spika, lazima tuache yatokote na yatulie. Yamefika hapa Mheshimiwa Spika, yanatokota, lazima tuamue yatulie, watu wa Meru wasonge mbele. Haiwezekani viongozi hawa kusema yale wanayosema pasipo shinikizo ama kunyoshewa vidole na viongozi wengine. Iwapo wewe unasema ni bishop na unasema wenye wivu wajinyonge, ni mahubiri yapi tunaendeleza katika nchi ya Kenya? Lazima tuseme ukweli. Tumejadili mambo ya wahubiri wawe wa ukweli, viongozi wawe wa ukweli, na bado nitasema fisi aliambia mawe, hata tukinyamaza vipi mumesikia, na lazima tupige kura turekebishe mambo ya Meru. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Mogeni.
Mr. Speaker, if there is an image that had stuck with me ever since this impeachment trial started, it is the image I saw of some acts against the governor of Meru. Mr. Speaker, I can be rough in politics. Mr. Speaker, I can make mistakes in politics, but I will never, and I've never descended to the level I saw in the videos that were displayed before this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, however much you hate a human being, Mr. Speaker, if you are a Christian or you believe in the Almighty God, Mr. Speaker, there are some utterances you cannot make against some other human beings when you are a leader, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, despite the things, the wrongdoings we have seen against the governor of Meru, Mr. Speaker, we must ask ourselves, Mr. Speaker, when history is written, Mr. Speaker, and we are the 47 of us who sat here, Mr. Speaker, how did our conscience respond to the videos that were played before us, Mr. Speaker? How will the people of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, judge us? Because it is not just the governor who is on trial, Mr. Speaker. It is the Senate of the Republic of Kenya that is on trial tonight, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I want to state at 11:45, Mr. Speaker, without fear of any contradiction, that the vote I have tonight, Mr. Speaker, the one delegation from Nyamira, Mr. Speaker, I owe my vote, Mr. Speaker, to the great women of this country called Kenya, Mr. Speaker. I owe my vote, Mr. Speaker, to the women who have faith in me from the county of Nyamira, Mr. Speaker. I owe my vote, Mr. Speaker, to the great woman who raised me, Mama Nyamokami. And Mr. Speaker, I want to give confidence tonight to the woman who will receive me when I go home, my wife Jacqueline, that I have respect for the women of this republic, Mr. Speaker. And when I cast my vote, Mr. Speaker, is to give assurance to my two lovely daughters, Nyamokami and Aliaro, that we must treat the women of Kenya with honor and respect, Mr. Speaker. That is the vote that I carry, Mr. Speaker, tonight. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Tobiko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. And Mr. Speaker, throughout this impeachment petition, Mr. Speaker, I took my time to listen to both sides without trying to to give my advice to my sister, as was expected by many Kenyans and by many people in Meru. Mr. Speaker, the Council for the County Assembly, Thiangolu, has said that quite a number of charges were like repetitions of the same charges that were in the first impeachment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, then I don't know whether this was just an appeal of what this House had already made a decision on, Mr. Speaker. They could be allowed by law, Mr. Speaker, but I don't think they should have then wasted the time of this House, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, because of time, my submission this evening, Mr. Speaker, is that there could be administrative omissions and commissions. But, Mr. Speaker, do they meet the threshold of impeachment, Mr. Speaker? As far as I'm concerned, these are non-impeachable offenses, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we have seen throughout these 2 days is hounding of a woman out of office through emotional abuse, through intimidation, through slander, Mr. Speaker, through threats on her life, Mr. Speaker. We have also seen tribal and ethnic profiling, Mr. Speaker, issues that I think NCIC should pick up, Mr. Speaker. And I would want, Mr. Speaker, to advise the governor of Meru that whatever happens to you this evening, there are cases here that you should take to court, Mr. Speaker. This is very scary to aspiring women of this country. Mr. Speaker, I kept asking myself, is this what is awaiting the women governors in this country, Mr. Speaker? Those who will try to get into the political positions that are the domain of men in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would say that what the county has continued to pursue is what the Angolu had mentioned the other time, that the election brought undesired consequences, Mr. Speaker. They must live with their choice, Mr. Speaker. As far as I'm concerned, the Meru people elected Governor Kawira and the will of the people is supreme, and they must live with their choice for the next 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, on my first day in this House, I took an oath to protect this Constitution. And I'm sure the people of Meru will appreciate, because they also know about oaths, why I would insist on defending this document on every occasion. Mr. Speaker, under Article 94 of this Constitution, I'm enjoined to be a protector of counties and the interests of their governments. And that is exactly what I'm going to do, whether I know anything about any of your counties, whether I have ever been there, whether I know anyone from there or not, because that is the oath that I took, Mr. Speaker. It has set a very high threshold for the removal of a governor under Article 181 on gross violation of the Constitution and the law, gross misconduct and abuse of office, or where there are serious reasons to believe that the county governor has committed a crime under national or international law. Mr. Speaker, my expectation from the county was to meet a case that demonstrates this particular standard that has been set by the Constitution. Now, there is one telling thing that came from the submissions of counsel, my good friend Thiankolu, that in fact the motivation of the MCAs does not matter. I want to try and persuade this House that motivation is everything. The reason why human beings do things is absolutely critical to the doing of those things. Mr. Speaker, because what motivation does, it sets a goal for you, and then you look for a means to get to that particular goal. We have seen the evidence that has been laid here demonstrate clearly that a decision was made that Kawira Mwangaza had to go as a governor of Meru. And then steps and plans were put in place to be able to meet that particular goal. And that is something that I cannot abide as a senator sworn to protect the interests of counties. Mr. Speaker, I want to speak to two analogies that have, been used quite extensively by the team from the county assembly. One, Mr. Speaker, is the analogy of the scorpion and the frog. I do not think anyone can ascribe the innocence of the frog in that particular analogy to the county assembly of Meru. At the very minimum, it is a scorpion being carried by a crocodile on its back, because both animals are extremely dangerous from the evidence that we have seen here. Mr. Speaker, secondly, it is this much repeated song by Shaggy called It Wasn't Me. In fact, in that particular song, council forgot that there was a collabo. There's another gentleman who's singing in that song as well. That gentleman says, I was caught live. There are photos. There is evidence. That is what we expected from the county assembly. In the evidence of the photos of this gentleman on the counter, in the shower, as the council sang, Mr. Speaker, it is difficult for me to get behind the case by the county assembly. I rest my case.
Senator Keroche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving this opportunity. And for me, I agree. There is something wrong in Meru. There's something wrong in Meru County, the Moi County. But there is a saying that says, two elephants, when they fight, the grass is the one that suffers. In this case, the grass is the Meru people. So we must ensure that we make the right decision in a very sober manner. Both parties, I can say both parties, their representation was not convincing, both parties. And whatever they brought in here, it is something I believe, as Senator Kavindo has said, could have been solved at the Senate. The two videos at Meru, the videos that we've seen, they've portrayed the Meru men be very sex abusers. But for me, I can bear witness that in Nakuru, we have over 5,000 Meru men, and they respect women. So in that video, please, I ask Kenyans just to know that it's only those Meru men that were in those videos that it's not